Hi, my name is David Saunders, and I am a graduate of the CMBC Certificate program. I was asked to speak for a few minutes about my experience in the CMBC Certificate program and reflect a little bit on its importance in my career development. So first, a bit about myself and my background. So I did undergrad at Boston College. I graduated in 2007. That was so long ago. I studied theology and I was a pre-med. After that, I did a Fulbright for 1 year in Nepal, studying Buddhist notions of tuberculosis. Thereafter, I did my first 2 years of medical school at Weill Cornell Medical College in New York City, with the hope of going on to psychiatry residency. In the middle there, however, I took a bit of a pit stop, as during my second year of med school, I realized that I wanted to pursue a PhD in Buddhist studies. So during that second year of med school, I applied to PhD programs in religion and ultimately found my way delightfully, fortuitously, wonderfully to Emory, where I worked under John Dunn and Sarah McClintock and Bobby Patterson in the Department of Religion. My aspiration in working with them was to study Buddhist notions of mindfulness-based practices in the West. And given that I was training to be a physician and psychiatrist, my hope was to adopt a scholarly and religious studies perspective on this evolving conversation between Buddhist historical and philosophical notions of mindfulness practices and their Western implementation and operationalization. So I did 2 years of coursework at Emory from 2010 to 2012. In 2012, I went back to medical school for a year and a half and graduated. And then from the middle of 2013 until my graduation from Emory, I went back to Emory to complete my dissertation. I wrote on self and non-self in mindfulness-based stress reduction. That was the title of my dissertation, I believe. From there, I took my MD and my PhD and did a psychiatry residency at Yale, doing the standardized adult psychiatry residency as well as the child psychiatry fellowship. I was in a program that was unique in that they offered across the 5 years of training or 6 years of training, a 2.5 protected years for research. And during those periods of research, I developed and tested a mindfulness-based intervention for children with ADHD. I saw this kind of as a confluence of my interests in psychiatry, child psychiatry, Buddhist studies, and Buddhist practices in the West. Now, I graduated from there, I guess, in June of 2020, and I recently started as a postdoc, and hopefully soon I'll be an assistant professor in the Department of Psychiatry at Columbia University, still studying Buddhist notions of contemplative practices in the West and running a clinical trial of a mindfulness-based intervention that I developed for adolescents with substance use disorder, or rather at high risk for substance use disorder. Now, going back to CMBC, which is what this is all about, it's been some time since I was enrolled in any CMBC classes. That said, I continue to receive the emails. So to speak for a few minutes about my experience in CMBC, I thought I'd go back to the very first email that I exchanged with anyone in the CMBC program. So as I mentioned, I came down to Emory to start the program in August of 2010. And so I'm going back to my email with Dr. McCauley. Gosh, I have such good memories of all my courses with Dr. McCauley. And I reached out about taking the course, and he said that I would be quite welcome in MBC 501. He says that since this is the first semester it has ever been taught, and that the CMBC's graduate certificate program is now up and running for the first time, he didn't expect a large enrollment, but that I was especially welcome. So that kind of set everything in motion. Candidly, I didn't exactly know what the CMBC certificate program was about, and I didn't know exactly what philosophy of mind was, or any of the other fields that intersect with the aims of CMBC. That said, there was something wonderful about what the CMBC stood for, and I had an inchoate sense that I would find a home at the CMBC. So I took, like every CMBC certificate recipient, I took that initial MBC 501 course. I was blown away. Looks like the first dinner I had with Dr. McCauley and other students in the class was with one Bill Bechtel. I remember that dinner very well, and I remember all of the dinners that I had with the CMBC cohort that I was a part of. I think that while I didn't have a clear sense of why I wanted to take that class, as I continued to complete the rest of the requirements for the certificate program, continued to read tremendous texts, have enlightening and illuminating conversations with my colleagues in the course, and take those trips to Dr. McCauley's home at the end of each class to have dinner and conversation in his home. It became clearer to me why I loved the CMBC and how it would benefit my career going forward. I think that a caveat before I speak to my perspective in particular is that I think that there are as many reasons to take the CMBC certificate classes as there are people, and probably more. And so my reasons for joining and the manner in which it impacted my career development are singular. And every person who takes these courses will have their own reasons and benefit in their own unique way. At the core of my academic trajectory is the notion that what I aim to study, which is how contemplative practices can be harnessed for the benefit of children and adults alike, and that Buddhist historical understandings of these practices will enlighten those who develop these practices for children and adults. That perspective is an inherently interdisciplinary one that doesn't fit neatly within any field of study, whether it's philosophy or religion or the Department of Psychiatry where I work at Columbia or where I trained at Yale. And so in that way, I've always been a little bit of an orphan. The things that I study kind of fit in the liminal spaces between departments. That said, that core subtext to my career development that my pursuits are inherently interdisciplinary and don't fit neatly within one field is also at the core, as I see it, with the CMBC's mission and approach to the study of mind, brain, and culture. And so I think that this the center really fulfilled a gap in academic training for those who don't fit really neatly into any one department. What's interesting is, kind of one level above what I'm talking about right now is that I don't I don't fit super neatly into the CMBC world as well. But what's wonderful about the CMBC is that's built into, at least as I see it, that's built into their DNA. They and have accommodated people like me and a whole host of different aspiring scholars and students of mind, brain, and culture. So I guess kind of the 10,000-foot view that I have when looking back on my time in the CMBC, the certificate program, and that first email that Dr. Macaulay and I exchanged in 2010 is one of gratitude, one of thankfulness that I was able to find a home, an interdisciplinary home that would support me in a number of different ways as I continued with that interdisciplinary approach to studying human flourishing, human suffering, and trying to develop ways, both historical and applied, to make humans healthier and happier. I think that the primary skill that they instilled in me and that I'm grateful for is an ability to be comfortable in interdisciplinary spaces. I carried that into the remainder of medical school. That mentality was pervasive in my dissertation, and it really was at the core of my work and research in residency and fellowship as well. To this day, actually, I mentioned that I'm now at Columbia. I am developing this clinical trial, and I'm seeing patients. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and I'm seeing patients who are struggling with mental health, anxiety, depression, substance use problems, as a direct result of the pandemic. But meanwhile, as I'm seeing patients and developing a clinical trial, I'm also taking a course at Columbia on spirituality and secularism in contemporary America, including its historical antecedents in the United States. I see that move and that decision as stemming directly from my time in CMBC, to be comfortable to do that and to be comfortable drawing lines and associations between disparate fields. And I say disparate to some, but not to those in CMBC. So with that, I'll stop talking and just say thanks to Dr. Macaulay, and give a shout out to all the others that I took those courses with, including Christina Gupta, Christina Tseng, and Julia Haas, and a whole bunch of others. So thank you, and may the CMBC carry forward its mission for many, many years to come. Okay, thank you.